All right, I will call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to our Williamsport City Council meeting. It's Thursday, December 11th. We're in Trade Trades at 2/3 floor. Please rise for the invocation by Councilman Randy Allison, followed by the flag salute.
Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight as we gather together to close out the fiscal year of our city, of our budget. Lord, we thank you for what we've been able to accomplish this year. We're grateful for that. And as we enter a new year, Lord, I pray tonight for my colleagues at the tables here. Lord, that you'd strengthen them throughout the year, lead them, guide them, give them wisdom. Lord, let next year be a prosperous year, Lord. And Father, I pray for our administration, that you help them, Lord God. They have so many responsibilities that make this city run, help this city to be safe. Father, I pray for your hand upon each and every one of them that's here, Lord God, and those that couldn't be here tonight because they're out doing their jobs. Lord, I'm grateful and we're all grateful that you've kept us and you lead and guide us through every obstacle that comes. Lord, we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, approval of City Council meeting minutes from November 17th, 2025. Is there a motion and a second?
So move. Second.
Any comments, questions on the minutes? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank on item 3.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Before we jump into item 4, I'm going to invite some representatives from Senator Yall's office to the podium and Representative Jamie Flick, who are back here for a presentation for one of our members of our team here in Williamsport. Welcome, both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Councilman Yoder. We are here tonight. I'll wait for Representative Flick to get up here. But we are here tonight to recognize somebody who has dedicated a great deal of their life to service, not only of the city, but of our country. So Senator Yall was not able to be here tonight, but he asked me to come, as I have done some work with him in the past, to recognize Chief Sam Ungst for his service, for his upcoming retirement from the city.
Yes, yeah. Now, listen, we're government, so we each have a citation. That's how we waste things in Harrisburg, but Liz, if you'd be so kind to read part of it.
All right, so it goes on, it's quite long, but I'll read the most important part. It says, whereas Chief Ungst began his career with the Williamsport Bureau of Fire on March 16th, 1992 as a firefighter. He was promoted to firefighter journeyman in March 1995 and rose through the ranks to serve as engineer, fire engineer, fire inspector, and platoon chief. Named acting deputy chief in March 2020, Chief Ungst was promoted to deputy chief in July of that year and accepted the role of chief in January 2022. During his tenure, he furthered his education by earning a bachelor's degree in fire science and a master's degree in leadership with emphasis on disaster preparedness and executive fire leadership. A recipient of the Lycoming County Rescue Technician Award, Chief Ungst served as chair of the North Central Division for the Office of the State Fire Commissioner and is a member of the International Association of Fire Chiefs, the Pennsylvania Career Fire Chiefs Association, and the International Association of Fire Investigators. To his great credit, he served this country with honor and distinction as a member of the United States Naval Reserve from 1997 to 1998 and the United States Air Force Reserve from 1998 to 2006. So on behalf of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Senate of Pennsylvania, and the State House of Representatives, we are here to congratulate Chief Sam Ungst on his retirement.
Yeah, please, please.
I appreciate everything and everybody's help along the way. This last 4 years, I never truly wanted to be fire chief. I really didn't. But the need arose and myself and my best friend. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We stepped up and, we did what we thought was best for the men and women of the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and the city of Williamsport. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sam, if I can just say, thank you very much for your service to the city, to the community, because your service has not only been to the city, you've served Old Lycoming in a number of capacities, and just very grateful for it. It's been an honor and a privilege working with you on council, and I just thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Any other comments from members? All right. Item 4, limited courtesy of the floor. I don't believe we've had any requests tonight. We're going to jump around here for a little bit. We will jump down to item 13, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution of the City Council to approve substantial amendments to fiscal year 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2024 annual action plans for CDBG and home investment partnership programs.
Is there a motion and a second? Second. Ms. Fessler, good evening.
Yes, good evening, President Yoder, members of council. Jamie Schroeder from CEDACOG is on Zoom and she's going to explain this resolution.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Welcome.
All right, great. Thank you. So tonight we just had a couple things to go over. So there was a couple of repayments that had to be accounted for and some funds that were not expended that had to be accounted for. So we are asking for council's approval to submit a substantial amendment to HUD for 2019 for a repayment of $192.75. And then in 2020, a repayment total of $15,380.63, which will go towards the fire department rescue boat. And then in 2021, a rebudgeting extra funds in the Willow Street design to the rescue boat and to owner occupied single family rehab, which is the emergency rehab program. And then 2024, we had leftover funds in the Little League Boulevard program that we could reallocate to the Sojourner Truth Ministries. So I'm looking for approval tonight for those amendments.
Thank you, Jamie. Are there any comments, questions for Ms. Fessler or Ms. Schroeder on Zoom related to the amendments? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, item 13, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll move to item 14, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing a professional and administrative services agreement between the city and CEDACOG of government for professional and administrative services to the legislative pre-disaster mitigation 2023.
Is there a motion and a second? So moved.
Second.
Ms. Fessler, floor is yours again.
Great, thank you so much. So this resolution actually represents a really exciting time for us because we are kicking off the levy reconstruction projects with the $8 million earmark that we have been allocated by the federal government. And what this resolution authorizes is for CEDACOG to assist us with the compliance and professional administrative services to manage that grant funding. So it is not Jamie Strotter at CEDACOG. It is a different division of CEDACOG. Betsy Kramer, who is not able to be with us this evening. But I do have some extensive information about her credentials and her work with CEDACOG if you are interested in that. She is currently working with the county to administer and manage compliance for their EDA grant, which is the $5.5 million cross pipe project that has kicked off with the levy. So this is a recommendation essentially to pay a 2% administrative services fee to CEDACOG for each reimbursement that we do for this project. And I'll just note that one of the reasons why we feel having CEDACOG represent us through this project is because this project is reimbursement based. So we're going to be doing about $10.7 million worth of projects. And we get reimbursed for the funds that we spent. So we have to make sure that we cross every T, dot every I when it comes to bid docs and every single compliance item. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to have CEDACOG alongside of us to make sure that we're doing that so that we don't face a repayment. And also they have really extensive project management skills with this type of project. And we know that they'll move this project really fast for us. The work that we have scoped with this money will be right up against the deadline of spending it, even with an extension. So we're really hopeful to work with them and have them move the project for us.
Thank you, Ms. Fessler.
Mhm.
Are there any comments or questions on the resolution by members? Mr. Wright.
Adam, I do.
Go ahead, Mrs. Katz.
The question I have is, okay, this is the $8 million that was allocated. It has to be 5-6 years ago. Is that the same 8 million that I'm thinking it is?
This $8 million was allocated in the, I believe it was 2023, Mayor Slaughter, correct me if I'm wrong. It was to be expended by, well, it would have been 5 years from to be expended in September of 2026. And we're working on an extension with them to extend it through September of 2028. And really, just to speak to that a little bit, there wasn't anything on the city's end that held up the project and the allocation. We are just now under contract with FEMA and this funding has just been released. So there's been nothing on the end of the city that has held this money up. The second that we received the contract and it was signed, we reached out to CEDACOG for this professional services agreement and here we are. So it wasn't until after the shutdown was over that we received the final contract.
That's what I kind of remember. And I was just wondering if it was the same allocation.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, Senator Yaw was part of that also, I think. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but it's about time we shoveled some dirt here.
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Biter.
Do you have any examples of other projects that CEDACOG has worked on of this magnitude?
Sure. As I mentioned, they're currently managing the $5.5 million grant that CEDACOG has from the EDA, or I'm sorry, that the county has from the EDA for the cross pipe project. But I asked Betsy just to submit her credentials to us. So if you would like, I could read us a few sentences.
Yeah, that'd
Would
be
you like me to read that? Okay, great. Betsy Kramer, CEDACOG's program manager for community revitalization and resiliency, has extensive experience managing complex state and federal projects across an 11-county region and has secured or advanced more than $34.5 million in grant funding for local governments. She is supported by a highly skilled CEDACOG team specializing in labor standards, federal and state grant compliance, fiscal management, project administration, and ensuring thorough oversight throughout the life of the project. Betsy has been working diligently with Pima on the city's extension request and reports positive indications that the grant period may be extended through spring 2028, which will provide an appropriate timeline for the successful completion of this 26-month project.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Mealy. Want to hit your mic?
Yes.
There
I
you go.
assume that the not to exceed $215,000 match or payment to CEDACOG will be coming out of the emergency and reserve fund?
That's correct.
Okay. And which strikes me as a totally fair and appropriate place for it to come from.
Great. That was the idea behind it.
Right. You gave me that sharp look and I was like, wait, I can't be the only person who thought.
No,
that was-
no. I had to think for a second. I've got like 3 different things running through my mind, and that was not what that was. That's what we designed it for. It's
Yeah,
correct.
are there any other monies for this portion, for this levy project coming out of that emergency reserve fund?
Yes, so the overall project is 10.7 million and the grant is 8 million. So we were required to put up a 20% match, and that was the money that was put into the emergency fund.
So I guess the following question is there still that much money in the emergency and reserve fund?
There
Yes.
sure is.
Okay,
We can
good.
check.
We had moved some things around and there was the payment to the FTA and I wasn't positive that there was
Yes.
still that much funding. Good.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, item 14, the vote, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Let's jump to item 16, certificate of appropriateness, 124 East 4th Street. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Nar, good evening, sir. Welcome to the podium.
Good evening, President Yoder, Vice President Bider, members of council. What I present to you tonight is a certificate of appropriate request from McHarris Realty for the location of 124 East 4th Street. It is currently occupied by Sweet Spire Coffee and Bakery Shop. Because it does reside within the CBD, requires a certificate of appropriateness. What I can tell you is the front part of the building has mountain stone at the very bottom of it. It has wood siding going up top of it with a black roof. The back building actually has about the same type of thing. It has the mountain stone at the bottom. It is gray siding that goes all the way with a black roof. The balconies will be made up of wrought iron as well as some wood trim to match the front part of the building. And I can answer any questions, and I do have a representative here.
Are there any comments or questions from members on the certificate of appropriateness? Ms. Mealy?
Well, first and foremost, that the business is a terrific addition to that part of town, and I think they already seem to be doing very well. And the renovation interior wise is certainly a success, and exterior wise, I think is a good thing for the building as well. The one question I would have, of course, Gary, is that the renovation is completed.
It is not completed.
It is not
They're
completed, but-
actually still working on phase 2, which would be some apartments up over top, as well as across the street from the alley. There will be basically refurbishing that building as well. So it is quite an extensive renovations designed by Visco Architects and McHarris Realty.
Got it. So we will see a certificate of appropriateness for the flip side of the alley at
flip
some
side,
point.
correct,
then.
yep.
Okay. Got it. Thanks, Gary.
Are there any other comments or questions from members? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, item 16, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Gary. And then let's jump up to item 10, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing the transfer of certain real property for River Valley Transit Authority.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Solicitor Grimes, welcome, sir. Good evening. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Yoder, members of council. Wow, that's loud. This is something that the city has been dealing with since March of last year, I believe, in what to do with certain properties that were built with Federal Transit Authority money, owned by the city since the separation of RVTA and the city. After negotiating in March, again in the summer, we've come up with a resolution that we feel is in the best interest of all the parties involved here. And essentially what this resolution does is it authorizes the city to transfer 3 of the buildings that were built with FTA money to RVTA. Those buildings are Trade and Transit 1, Trade and Transit 2, and Church Street parking deck, and there's some offices and whatnot there. This was originally approved actually March of last year. Then with certain things coming up with the FTA, that resolution was pulled back. Another resolution was passed to say that 2 of those properties were not being used for essential transit purposes. And this resolution pulls back that resolution and transfers these 3 buildings. Now, with that transfer, there's a certain number of considerations for the city. The first and probably the most important being that if those properties are not used for transit purposes as the FTA intends, or they become in disrepair, or they attempt to be sold, then those properties come back to the city. And the reason for that is it wasn't 100% FTA funds that were used to build those properties. It was about 80%, which means if those properties are ever sold, 80% of the money has to go back to the FTA. And that doesn't matter what the sale price is. It doesn't matter how much FTA put in, 80% of the assets theirs. So in the future, if those assets are sold or are not used appropriately, then the city still has that reversionary interest to where they then would be able to protect that 20% equity in the properties. The other thing that it does is it allows the city for at least 2 years to continue to operate out of the buildings that they're operating in at a reduced rental price than what they're operating out of now as part of the consideration for that transfer. RVTA still needs to vote on this. So right now it's anywhere in a range from $5 to $10 per square foot. But that's less than the $11 per square foot that's currently being paid. Also, as part of that, there's a consideration that if the city would ever need it, a certain number of parking spots could be negotiated and reserved in the Church Street parking deck for the city. This has been reviewed by RVTA's solicitor. It has not been reviewed. It has not been approved by their board yet. And FTA was in the discussions to make sure that everything that the city and RVTA is doing is in compliance with their needs and their requirements. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions on this.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes. Are there any comments or questions on the resolution? Mr. Biter.
Just a comment. Mr. Grimes, thank you very much for all the work you put into this. I know also Mr. Kenyon put in a lot of work as well. The folks at RVTA, thank you very much for being patient with us through this process. It was a very unique situation that we were all very unfamiliar with and wanted to make sure we had the best equitable solution for not only RVTA, but also the city of Williamsport, since these were funded partially by the city, as was said, 20%. So I appreciate your willingness to come to the table at this point for, again, an equitable solution.
Thank you, Mr. Biter. Are there any other comments or questions from members?
Adam, I do. This is Bonnie.
Go ahead. Mrs. Katz, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I let go of the mute key. What you're saying is that we will still be paying rent at a lower rate. We have asked, I know I have asked for a breakdown as far as what funds were used for these buildings, for Trade and Transit 1 and Trade and Transit 2. Is this so hard that you can't pull up a spreadsheet with showing where the funds came from? To me, I've been asking for that for a long time.
Well, Mrs. Katz, I mean, fair question. You know, I think at the end of the day, if that's something that we're interested in, I think RVTA could certainly probably still get that for us, right? But I think more importantly, you know, yes, we would still be paying a cost per square foot for the space we're occupying for rent. as we should, because we will be continuing to occupy them, at least in the short term. And at the end of the day, frankly, that situation is a little bit more in line, I think, with what we've been operating under. They will actually own these properties now. And I think the important thing to remember, Mr. Grimes really, I think, kind of hit this point. And I think this is important for the public to realize as well. When you look at the stipulations in the deed that we have put in there, in terms of it coming back to us should they not need it or they wanted to sell it, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, the equity that the city has, the 20% is protected. And at the end of the day, when you think about these properties and the investment that the city at least has made, with all due respect to RVTA and the investment that they have made and the feds have made, that's protected, I think, which I think at the end of the day is what a lot of us were trying to figure out, how we do and what we do that, what that looks like. So I think, like I said, I think RVTA can probably get that for us if we still need to see that. That's kind of how I'd answer your question, Mrs. Katz. Are there any other questions from members? All right. Hearing and seeing none, then Mrs. Frank, item 10, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Go ahead.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Grimes. RVT, thank you for your collaboration as well. We appreciate it. All right, I'm going to jump up to item 7, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution honoring Councilman Randall Allison for his distinguished service to the city of Williamsport.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
All right. So as everybody is aware, we had a municipal election this past year, and for the first time in, I think, a few cycles, there was an unfamiliar name. There was a familiar name not on the ballot, and that was Councilman Randy Allison. And with tradition of departing members of council, it's been our tradition, and a good one, to honor them with a resolution. And we're doing that here today. And for the record, I'll read it in so that the public and all of our attendees here can hear what is in here. And we can do some recognition of Councilman Allison. So this is a resolution honoring Councilman Randall J. Allison for his distinguished service to the city of Williamsport. Whereas Councilman Randy Allison has faithfully served the residents of our city with dedication, integrity, and distinction on city council from 2010 through 2026. And whereas Councilman Allison served with exceptional leadership as council president from 2019 through 2022, a period that encompassed unprecedented challenges, including the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas during a time of significant transition with both the mayor's office and city council membership, Councilman Allison provided steady, reassuring leadership that guided our municipal government through changeable times. And whereas his calm presence and thoughtful approach to governance during the pandemic helped ensure continuity of essential city services and responsive decision-making when our community needed it most. And whereas throughout his tenure, Councilman Allison has been known for his wisdom and deliberation, his candor in discussion, and his gracious disposition in all interactions with colleagues, staff, and constituents. And whereas his commitment to transparent, collaborative governance has set a standard that current and future council members will continue to emulate and aspire to achieve. And whereas Councilman Allison has earned the respect and admiration of his fellow council members, city staff, and the residents he has served through his unwavering dedication to the betterment of our community. And whereas his contributions to our city's progress and his example of public service has left an undeniable mark on our municipal government and will continue to benefit our community for years to come. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council does hereby express its profound gratitude to Councilman Randy Allison for his outstanding service, commends him for his exemplary leadership during challenging times, and extends its best wishes for his future endeavors. And be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of the City Council, and that a certified copy be presented to Councilman Randy Allison as a token of his appreciation for his dedicated service to our city and its residents. If I can just, maybe offer some comments. And really thanks and gratitude to you, Randy. Because you're really somebody, as I look back in serving with you for 6 years, you're really somebody that has impacted me personally and professionally in a monumental way. Because you've always really been in my corner. When I moved back to the area, I got involved with the local committee. I remember sitting beside Deb actually. I see her grinning back there and nodding her head. Getting involved with the committee, you were always really there as a resource for me and supporting me and a lot of things I was interested in trying to do. When I reached out to you to talk about running for city council, you were always there as a resource and as somebody who was very supportive and insightful in the process. My first couple of years on council, where I will openly recognize that I probably wasn't the easiest to work with at times. I mean that you handled a young up and coming whippersnapper maybe with a lot of poise, intelligence and grace. And I really never thought much about it until I was fortunate to succeed you in this seat and understand, how impactful you have been and how valuable your approach to leadership was, and when a lot of what I've tried to do in my time as council president has really been modeled after a lot of what I learned from you. And so I'm extremely grateful to be sitting here beside you for 6 years, and to have you have my back for beyond 6 years. I can't thank you enough. And I thank your family as well, because you've served city council for 16 years. I have no idea how you've done it. Because this is hard.
Well,
This is hard.
she's sitting at the back of the room.
And you served 3 terms on the school board before. Your dedication to this community is unmatched. And this community is better for it. So thank you very much for everything you've done for the city, for the community, for me. I will not forget it, and none of us will.
You're very gracious. Thank you for those.
Hey, Randy, you don't get the floor until the rest of us say something. You know how that goes.
What?
Said you don't get the floor until the rest of us say something, you know.
Up the floor for other members. Ms. Mealy, please, you have,
Randy is allowed to have the floor first if he wants to his own time. Don't expect it to happen on the budget, though. Go for it.
No, I don't want to butt in. Go ahead.
All right, then I'm taking the floor next because I'm usually the second biggest mouth on council after Adam, I think, or maybe it goes the other direction. It's really hard to say. But I am the only person here who has served the entirety of her city council career with
That's right.
Randy.
Yep.
And will be continuing for an additional 4 years without him because somebody punked out early. But he picked a good time because it means we got Jonah instead. But I remember back when I first got on council that nobody could have been more surprised than I was that I got elected. And it's possible that there were some people who were more dismayed than I was, but I'm not positive about that either. But that for a brief time, actually, no, for quite a while after I got elected, I was the only Democrat on city council. And I looked at everybody else on city council as kind of an entrenched Democrat from a liberal family for generations. I looked at everyone with a certain degree of suspicion, and some of them deserved it. And but I remember thinking after getting to know Randy a little bit realizing that I had known his son Adam when we were in elementary school, and that Adam was one of the first kind of friends that I had in elementary school. We used to kick each other under the table at lunch. It was a really sweet relationship we had. And and I thought, well, Randy, you know, maybe I should give him a chance, even if he is a Republican. And it has turned out there's something kind of remarkable about learning to really love and respect someone with whom you share both everything in common and very little in common. Randy and I come from most of the same places. We have a lot of the same goals, and we cherish, I think, pretty much all of the same things as truths in our lives. And yet, there are very few things more different than, in some cases, the way that those inform our political views. And yet, I have come to have more respect for Randy than anybody else I've ever had the good fortune to know. And it has altered the way that I think, not just about Randy and not just about other people of opposing political views on city council, but frankly, everybody in Williamsport and sometimes even nationally. It makes me give pause and take second thought about everything that I would have leapt forward and judged in my life. And that, frankly, Randy, may not sound like the compliment that it is, but it takes a lot to make someone rethink some of the bedrock things that they held to be true in their lives. And it takes someone who is thoughtful enough and kind enough to not jump in and call you a jerk, or many of the many worse words that I use on a regular basis, despite the fact that I know that Randy doesn't like swearing. I don't think that I could have been as good a council person even as I have been, and certainly not as good a person as I have been if it hadn't been for getting to spend so much of my time with Randy over the last 16 years, and for the fact that poor guy had to spend a couple of years, I think, with me as vice president in the middle of the pandemic when I had multiple children and was doing absolutely nothing. And, anyway, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do without, I don't know what any of us are going to do without Randy to hold us on an even keel and make us take a step back and stop leaping to conclusions and having strong opinions that aren't based in the thoughtfulness that comes from a sort of a radical approach to treating other people like decent human beings, regardless of what you might be inclined to think of them at first. But I am going to attempt to not be so much of a hothead moving forward, Randy, and to bring a little bit more of you into my daily interactions. And if I fail, Debbie is going to remind me, right, that I have failed to take a step back, because I know she's capable of that. Thank you, Randy, for everything you've done for all of us. And now I'm guessing that everybody else wants to also say those things, but you can steal the floor whenever you'd like.
Thanks, Liz. Don't know what to say.
Adam, if I could put my 2 cents in.
Please, Mrs. Katz.
Randy, you have been my rock. I think you know, every time I was ready to jump off the cliff with what I wanted to see and do, you were able to calm me down and also talk it out as far as what we were looking at and what we were doing. You have done that so graciously over the years. That's what I would love to take away, that you are the calmness, but you're also the intelligent one who has gone through an awful lot through ups and downs with council and the administration. How could we? I don't think we can let you go. You're going to be here. I'm sorry, Randy, but I don't know how we can say goodbye to you, because you have been the force behind the table there. Please don't be a stranger, okay? Stop and see us, okay? And also give us your hand on the shoulder and say, okay, it's going to be okay. And that's what I look for. I look for that. We're being told that it's going to be okay, Randy, and that's how you've always handled it. So, going to miss you sitting there, but I don't want to miss you. I would like you to still be there. So take care, Randy.
Thank you, Bonnie. And we will stop by and see you as often as we can.
If I may,
I think now it's going to be hard to follow up everybody else's statements. But Randy, in the shorter term and time that I've had the privilege of sitting up here and serving with you, you've taught me an awful lot about the person that I would like to be, and the servant to the city that I would like to be. Up here, I'm usually pretty quiet, but behind the scenes, I think I'm pretty loud and pretty hot-headed, and we all know it. And usually when that happens, Randy's the guy that I always call. And he is the steady, consistent rock that we always lean on. His experience and his wisdom, his demeanor kind of always helped kind of rein me in and bring some clarity to my approach, which is not always the best one. But Randy, I'm gonna miss you. Truly. I think if everyone in this city aspired to be a little bit more like you, we'd be far better off. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go next since I'm right next to Vince here. I'm gonna follow up with what Vince said. Calming. I think that's the best word that can be used. And much like Vince, I've found myself the past 6 years when I've been worked up about something and you have to make some calls and talk to people. You're the one that I would always feel better after I got off the phone with. And there's a lot of times I'm not even sure you said much. You just let me vent and spew all the things I wanted to say. And I'm not even sure I ever asked your opinion, but so I apologize for that. But getting off the phone with you, I always felt better. So I just want to thank you for that. Unlike President Yoder, I know I've been very easy to work with the last 6 years. And you're a Republican? I didn't realize that. Anyway, but just thank you so much for kind of quietly showing us all, especially us, Adam, myself, Vince, Eric, Dave Banks, previous, all of these new people showing us quietly how to do this job. So thank you so much for that. And you will be missed, but I'm going to come see you at the growers market as much as I possibly can. So.
We're going to talk him into some kind of service.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll see him.
That's actually a condition of his retirement.
Right.
We've talked into that. Randy, I've unfortunately had the least amount of time to serve with you on city council, only 4 years, but we've known each other a little bit longer than that. From my mayoral run in 2019, you were extremely helpful when I came to you for advice just about how the process works and what issues were facing the city at the time. And when I got elected to council in 21, my thought was, what would Randy do? Again, as everybody has said, with that calming mentality that you have had throughout, you've been a great example for all of us, almost as a father figure on city council. But just taking the moment to take a step back and not necessarily comment, but just give an opinion as to where you see things from, and then letting us stew over things, because it was almost like you were trying to pull us your way as you did that. And it was greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for that. And I will say that I am jealous of all of you that you've gotten to spend more time with Randy as an elected official. But as I said, a condition of your retirement is that you're not allowed to go away fully. And also, the other thing that's very nice is the young man that got elected in your seat has the same exact haircut. So we won't miss you that much.
Everything needed to be said has been said, but I do just want to, my first few years on city council, the 2 years I spent there, I had the privilege of sitting next to Randy. That was an honor and a joy to sit next to him as I was learning sort of the ways of city council. And then, as President Yoder alluded to, Randy was president of council as I took over as mayor. And so I also had many phone conversations with Randy during his time, and I still do. And it's been said that he's calm, he's measured, he's pragmatic, and reasonable. And I think in today's political climate, we could probably use a few more Randys. So that was appreciated over the years. I guess 8 years now that I've worked with Randy here in local government. And so I appreciate all the words of wisdom and listening ear that he provided to me as well. And thank you for your service here to the city and getting to know you and Deb over these last 8 years or so, a little bit more than I knew you a little bit before, and getting to know you a little better now. It's been a privilege and an honor. And like Councilman Mackey said, I'm sure I'll still see you around and see you at the market and other things that you're involved with. So thank you.
Thank you, Derek. I should just quit while I'm ahead here, so. Yeah, I'm kind of overwhelmed here because I don't see myself like that, but I'll take your words for it. It's been a great experience. I mean, I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to serve on city council and be a part of this, our city, and the things that we've had to work with and do it just kept confirming in my soul that it's really about people. It's how we treat them, how we respect them, and how we can reach out and help those that need it. And I know that's the spirit of all the people on council and in our administration. We want our city to thrive, and it's in great hands with this group here. I can say I love each and every one of you, and I have felt like a dad because I am a generation older than everybody else except Bonnie, and Bonnie and I are compatriots in all of this. And it's been great, but in the words of Kenny Rogers, there's a time when you hold them and a time when you fold them. And there's a time to walk away, and there's a time to run. And I know it's a song, and we all probably want to sing along with it, but I felt in my spirit and soul that it was time. You know, I served here. I'm grateful for it. It was enlightening in a lot of ways, but it was time. I held them, and I knew it was time to let go, and I knew it was time to walk away, but I knew it was time not to run for city council again. So nothing stays the same forever, and there has to be transition. There has to be new life come forth. I think it's in public service. I think it's good to be cognizant of that. It's a privilege to be here, and it's a privilege to be a public servant. But you don't own that. You hold on to that and try to make things better for your city and for the people in it. But that doesn't mean you should be there forever. And I think we've seen some of that at higher levels of government, but I like the way that this group functions. So I just thank everybody, and God bless you all. Everyone I've met in the administration has been just great. They're upstanding people. we don't always agree on everything, but that's how it should be, because iron sharpens iron. You don't get better if you don't get challenged. So I'm just grateful for everybody out here who's given their lives and time and times in ways that I don't even imagine the stress and strain. So I thank you all, and Godspeed.
If you'll allow me, Randy, Janice, I want to give you an opportunity to say a few things to Randy because I think you wanted to.
Well, Randy, I've been with you 15 years here and known you forever. And I'm going to miss picking up the phone and going, Randy, help me. They're making me crazy because you've been here so long with me. So I'm going to miss that. But I know that you and I will keep talking. And I know we share a long history and our love and worship for Christ. So I thank you for everything you've given me too.
Yeah. Janice, you're irreplaceable. If I think everybody on council would say that. The knowledge and the research that you've done over the years, not just things that people on council or the administration have asked of you, but the way you've embraced the position that you have. But you've also embraced the people that you interact with. And I'll never forget that. But we will be crossing paths. I am half Italian, so we have that together too. But thank you so much, Janice. You've meant a lot to everybody up here.
Very much so. And if you'll allow me, if there's a few members of your family that are back there, if you are so motivated, would love to welcome you to the podium if there's anything any of you would like to share. But if not, it's all good as well.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Okay, here comes the law.
Nothing prepared. I wasn't expecting to say anything, but I'm not an emotional person, but man, give me an opportunity. Just sorry. Having the opportunity to learn everything that they talked about, that everyone has said something. I was front and center for all of it, and I'm so thankful for that. I don't know if he would agree, but I think perhaps his years on the school board were sometimes at least as intense and rough. And I was a K-12 student along with Liz in those years, and seeing it unfold in my own classroom with my teachers. And as difficult as that was at times, I loved it. And I'm just thankful for the the opportunity to be there and learn what service is. And I mean, I can only speak from my perspective. As a public school teacher, I know that when you go to school to become a principal, one of the first things they teach you, if the program is good, is how to serve in order to be a good leader. And I always that always stuck with me, with my dad and the people he worked with and continues to work with. He's very thankful to have the opportunity. He speaks very highly of so many people I'm seeing for the first time. It's pretty neat. Shame on me for not coming here more often, but I read about in the paper every day and ask him as many questions as I can and want. And I don't even live in the city, but I mean, I was born and raised here as he was. So thank you for just the opportunity to be here and everything that I was able to do tonight. And
Thanks, Adam. Love you, buddy.
All right. Any other parting comments before we take our vote on our honoring resolution? We love you, Randy.
Thank you. I'm gonna abstain.
Mrs. Frank on the vote for item 7, please.
Mr. Allison,
Abstain.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Just to be clear, would a no vote mean he has to stay?
Unfortunately, no.
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0 with 1 abstention. Let's give him a round of applause.
And now in typical fashion for Randy, he has to sit around for another hour while we debate the budget. Instead of getting to actually just leave and go have fun somewhere.
I can do an hour.
Let's keep it under if we can. Let's go. All right. I don't know that there's anybody else from the public on an item. So we'll try to go through order here. So let's jump into item 5, Mrs. Frank.
Ordinance adopting various operating budgets for the city of Williamsport, including the general fund, emergency and reserve funds, capital projects fund, city hall operating fund, liquid fuels, debt service fund, and Act 13 in final reading.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Livermore, good evening.
Good evening, council. As Janice just said, this is the final reading for the operating budgets for 2026. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
If the group would allow me, I'll kick this off. So this is the second reading of our annual budget. This passed unanimously in first reading. We kind of hinted at, I think, a few conceptual changes that we wanted to discuss tonight. And so members of the administration, just bear with us as we kind of do this and try to have a little bit of a dialogue on kind of where I think a number of our heads are at as we kind of work through a few concepts. So there were really, I think, 2 categories that a number of us had interest in exploring to kind of further position ourselves going into 2027. Both of those categories are in line with recommendations that PFM has publicly told us. The first is changing contribution limits for healthcare contributions for employees that we're able to do, and that's at-will employees, okay? And there's a few dynamics related to that. So I was able to obtain some guidance from PFM on what else do they see in other areas. And this is as much for the administration as it is for members of council here. You know, I think in the municipal marketplaces, I would say, the contribution areas are much different than I think what we're seeing generally with our union and non-union employees. I think it's anywhere from 10 to 15 level percentage contributions we're at. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, our 1, 3, 5 range across non and unionized, correct?
Yeah, some pay from $0 all the way to 5%. Yeah.
So in looking at that concept, there are a few different ranges that were kind of floated to me through PFM and that we already kind of have established from a precedent that I thought are worth discussing in that that realm. PFM, you know, had suggested or at least validated the concept of like a 5-7 setup or a 7-10 would be a really good balance in getting closer to where I think their recommendation in spirit is, and not getting so far as to where we're creating this massive shock to employees in getting closer to the open marketplace. The other thing for us to remember is our elected officials are already contributing more. So mayor, controller, treasurer, council members until January 1, when insurance is no longer available, are doing a 5-10, 5% individual. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick and Jamie, 10% family, or is it 10% of the difference?
It's 10% of the difference between family and individual coverage, which is just
So-
slightly lower than 10.
So there's a few different levels that I think we could make an argument for in doing that. And then I'll open the floor for thoughts from members after this one as well. So the way that it took me a few days to understand this a little bit better. So Jamie, thank you for your help in that process. And again, I'll reiterate, thank you for your help with this overall budget. It's a lot of work. I know you're putting in a lot of late hours, and I think I can confidently speak for the group. We're very grateful for it. So the way that the budget is set up, the cost is reflective of the overall actual cost. The actual is where we actually would see the savings and the contribution. So I think we could implement that a couple of different ways. We could actually make line item changes, something more cleaner. I'll throw to the group as well, is we could pass a resolution noting and setting a policy for at-wills to start. That's what we have control over, to be contributing more in this budget as well. So I'll kind of open the floor and just gauge a couple of different things. Is there a consensus on a level, as well as is this something we want to pursue now or in January, if at all still?
Personally, I don't feel like I would pursue this just yet.
Okay.
I think I would rather wait. You know, we've worked pretty hard on this budget, making changes, trying to find savings, working on equitable contracts. I mean, we're working on everything all the way around. And I just, it's my personal feelings that even with the PFM recommendations, which on paper in theory they're very sound right now, and we'll work toward fiscal equity across the board. I just worry about the financial impacts that this could have on some of our at-will employees, at least at this current time.
Fair.
So,
any other feedback from the group, Ms. Mealy?
I think because to return to the PFM recommendations, the vast majority of city employees can contribute significantly less to their health care than most public employees across the state. And so with that in mind, I think that it is only appropriate that we begin moving toward a higher level of healthcare contributions from individual employees. That said, I'm with Vince in the sense that it doesn't strike me as the world's best Christmas present. And so I would suggest that we work on passing a resolution in the beginning of the year, implementing a change like this, perhaps mid-year next year. And that we, that is to say, give ourselves a 6-month grace, say this is something we want to work on, engage in some discussions with employees who will be impacted, and say this, but give people a little bit of time to plan for it, instead of making it something that hits on the 1st of January and completely modifies what you thought you understood about your upcoming year. Things like, vacations have already been planned that might be impacted by healthcare contributions.
Certainly.
In part because I think that it will improve our ability to negotiate with our unions moving forward on this issue, and in part because I think that it is one of the more equitable ways to help our employees understand the cost of healthcare to the city, and give them a level of buy-in in the insurance coverage that we're purchasing, and the kind of coverage that they want, and the kind of and what is cost effective for them. I think that it's a wise decision, but I think that we should like I said, begin discussions on that in the new year, do up our resolution and look to have it land sometime in June or July as something that's a bit more equitable to give everyone time to adjust to the proposed change.
Certainly. And look, to be candid, I mean, I appreciate both of the feedback on the employee side of it. I mean, and look, at the end of the day, you know, this is really the difficult part of this process, right? When we're looking at trying to fix some systemic things, and trying to build as big of as good of a bridge as we can, between now and hopefully getting into a better position in a couple of years. Like, this is the kind of stuff that is really hard to go through and discuss. So I certainly appreciate that perspective. I agree. I could be on board with trying to because frankly, this is, of the two categories, this is a much more of a moving target. There's a lot more to this, right? This is a lot larger scale of a change, compared to the attrition concept that PFM had also said that we can discuss here in a minute as well. So any other comments from other members? Mr. Biter.
I just have a quick question for the administration. When was the last time that our healthcare has been put out to bid?
I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was when Molly was here, but I think we discussed this in the last meeting. Donna and I have talked about she plans to do it beginning to mid-year next year.
Okay.
An RFP would be put out.
All right.
There's time restraints when it comes to the healthcare. So you have to do it, I think, before you have to have some sort of something before June 30th in
Okay.
order to make sure you're compliant with your current provider.
All right. So a resolution with some 6-month lead time would actually coincide with that plan very well. So then employees, they would probably see a change in healthcare costs anyway. The city would, because typically when you shop that around, you might see a lower rate for the first 2 years if you sign a 5-year contract with that. So it might be a net neutral for those employees, and then it would be a much slower ramp up for that.
Any other comments? I like that. Okay. So get into next year, looking at middle of the year is where do some more groundwork, legwork on that in collaboration with the administration and revisit that late spring of next year. Yeah. Is what I'm hearing.
I think we should try to revisit it earlier than that.
Well, I mean, with the idea of getting it through
sometime
late spring, early summer.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on that item? All right. So the other broad category that PFM had noted is the concept of attrition, right? And again, this is also a difficult one that I don't think any of us like. I don't like at all, but it's something that I think we need to talk about and discuss and see if it makes sense. And with the concept of notably positioning ourselves as best as we can for 2027, right? The bridge strategy that Gordon outlined was a 2-year strategy. And with what I expect to pass later in the meeting with home rule, getting us to a point where we can hopefully get that implemented and provide some revenue flexibility to where we can then make up some of these things we've had to do to get from point A to point B. Okay. So these are a lot more black and white from a technical budget perspective. All right. So I'm going to make a couple motions here, and I don't want to freak out anybody in the administration because if the consensus is to not do anything, I can rescind the motion. Right. I'm making the motions just to start the dialogue. Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to reduce a firefighter first year by 0.3, impacting the salary, FICA, health, life, workers' comp line items.
It will only impact salary and
Only
FICA for
impact
now.
salary and FICA. So
For now, yeah,
now.
that's all we do because the others would pass on.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. So Chief Ungst, I believe there's a potential retirement coming in 2025. No. 2026. So next year. And that 0.3 was the conceptually meant to try to backfill that potential retirement, right? And so by removing that 0.3 of a staff member, that would eliminate the replacement should that individual retire, enacting the concept of attrition in your department. From what I've kind of gathered throughout the week from some feedback I've gotten from other members of council and indirectly through the administration, I think we can manage in the department by making that move. I mean, and again, I recognize it's not optimal, right? But that's a little bit of the background on that. Okay.
I think, doing so.
Yeah, if you don't mind popping up here, yeah. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it, by the way.
So I think eliminating that position is going to have an impact on the regionalization efforts that we're trying to make. We're already trying to do it with limited manpower now. So I mean, if we eliminate that position, that is going to create significantly more overtime as well. So I will stand here and tell you, I understand where you're coming from. But I think it's a huge mistake.
Okay.
The mayor has, since I've been chief, the mayor has increased us by 3 personnel, which has been a tremendous help. So losing anyone is very detrimental, especially right now when we're entering into these regionalization talks and efforts. So I would hope that you would definitely reconsider and find other sources.
Yeah. No, and look, I appreciate that. Again, like we're not voting on the motion yet, right? And again, these changes are a lot more concrete or straightforward from a technical perspective in how they work in the budget compared to the earlier piece that we talked about. That's a lot more has a more complexity from a line item, budget composition perspective, right? Are there any comments or questions on that motion from members? And look, I mean, I'll say this as well. Like, again, I don't know that I understand where you're coming from. And I mean this truly. I don't like it. Okay. And I know that you recognize why we're talking about it. It's about hopefully it's temporary, right? Hopefully it's a temporary 2-year strategy to help us solidify that bridge to where we get the revenue flexibility to where we can hopefully not only bring it back, but as that regionalization effort takes off, staff it as the way it would need to be, right? That's the root of why we're discussing this.
Sure. So if I can ask just one question, why is it always the fire department that is faced with layoffs? Obviously in '96, we were laid off. They laid 8 firefighters off, never replaced them. In '97, I believe it was, they laid 8 more off. They were never replaced. I believe it was 2008, 2009, somewhere in that area, 2010. There was threats of, not threats, but possible elimination of 2 firefighter positions. And that now this year, we're looking at not replacing, I mean, no layoffs, but, elimination of a position. If you could just answer that, I would really appreciate that.
No, certainly. I mean, and look, so I don't have the institutional context that you do to start off, right? So I really appreciate where you're coming from and understand, the frustration, right? I can't really answer those questions about history, that kind of stuff. How I would answer that question is, first off, you're not the only department that we're going to have a dialogue about. Okay. Secondly, as I mentioned, I I think in my mind, and I think in everybody else's mind, this is really a temporary measure, right? And this is a temporary measure that does not, we're not, I don't know how to say this the appropriate way. You kind of alluded to it, right? It's attrition, which is, we're not firing or cutting people, we're not replacing and temporarily, right? And like I said, I mean this, because I've voted to hire new firefighters.
You all did.
Most of us have,
Yep.
right? And I think that vote reflects, hey, like we get the challenge that your department faces from a staffing perspective. And I think that reflects the desire of this to be a temporary measure in getting us to as good of a position we can be in going into 2027. And if we can get to where we want to go with the revenue flexibility, we backfill that position. And again, as the regionalization effort that is excellent, that you should be commended for, and your department should be commended for, continues to take root, we can be in a much better position to staff that as it needs to be and as we want it to be. So I don't know that addresses the frustration that you have, that I understand and sympathize with, but I mean it. It's hopefully a temporary measure to better position us as we go into the 2027 budget. Because at the end of the day, the feedback that I got from PFM when I talked to them about a couple of these concepts is, look, what your budget looks like today is, this is a great 2026 budget in the bridge concept compared to what we thought it was going to be, right? However, we're using a lot of one-time things or reserves that we don't want to continue too long and get too far behind, right? Capital. We're going to be limited in being able to dip into our emergency reserve multiple years because of the good work that we're seeing with the levy, right? So it's really a balancing act of trying to put this together. And frankly, in the 2027 budget, I'll be shocked if we don't see more of these things. And if we don't do some of these things now, it's going to be harder in 2027 for all of us. And that includes your successor, right? It includes all of the firefighters in there. So I don't know if that addresses your question, and a legitimate question, but that's how I would answer that, if that helps, Chief.
It helps me understand, but it absolutely, it like it's stab to the heart.
I understand.
And it's,
It does us too.
Yeah, I think that there are other ways that we can come up with, be creative and come up with other ways to handle that. So.
Mr. Biter or Ms. Mealy.
Yeah, I think what all of us are hoping, Sam, is that we can, if and when we know that we can make the leap to becoming a home rule municipality and implement some of the financial reforms that come along with that as a possibility, we can begin to look at reforming the budget with an eye toward having enough funding to not that any of this is excess. We all know that the city has been bare bones for a long time, but I think the point is that we can't deplete our reserves to the point that we don't have enough bridge funding to pay, to pay our employees the first couple of months of the year that we have to take out a loan. We hemorrhage money that way. So the best approach that we can come up with is to try and be maybe not draconian, but close to it right now, with hopes that hoping that by May of 27, we find ourselves in a position where we can begin adding positions back in, because we know where we are financially, and we know that we are more comfortable financially. But if I think that Adam's right, I mean, I am the council person who's been preaching increasing taxes for the last 4 years to to a room full of no's. But we have to do one of two things. We either have to raise taxes to meet our financial needs in the current government system that we're in, or we have to cut positions until we find ourselves in a better financial position. If the will is not there on the part of the administration and on the part of my fellow members of council to increase taxes above what's proposed, then we have to meet that by cutting back on staffing until we get to a point where we're more secure financially. And I think that is the genesis of this. That is what there were multiple things that we heard, and sorry, for some reason I just keep getting sicker right now. So if I sound gravelly, it's both gravitas and then also the fact that I came here with a cold. The recommendations of PFM were for attrition in a handful of city departments, for increased contributions to healthcare, which we can only make a possibility specifically in at-will employees because the rest are negotiated through contractual agreements with our unions, and for an increase in taxes larger than the one that's proposed in the current budget. We are working to take as many of those recommendations as we can, because we need to position the city, hopefully in a couple of years' time, to kind of leap back into the fray with a solid financial footing. And we can't do that without adopting as many of those recommendations as possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what I would like to ask you from a level of understanding, with the regionalization efforts that are going on, how do you see this? Obviously, manpower and overtime, you see an increase in that, but how is this position integral to the success of that? Is it something that it's a third of a person?
Yes, it's 0.3, assuming that, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, the individual retires at some point mid to late next year, and that person would be going through the academy and would not be like come to be operable.
Correct.
Until the end of next year, correct?
So I believe that the individual who is actually retires January of 27.
Okay.
Okay. So the third is hired. What we have been doing for several years is when we know somebody's leaving early in the year or late in the year, we hire for the preceding. So whether it's the spring academy or the fall academy, we hire for that academy so that they're there, and as soon as that person retires, they're on the floor, they're already working, we don't miss a beat.
Right. So you have the overlap.
Correct.
There. So really what we'd be looking at is an issue in 27 with our regionalization efforts and staffing efforts and so on, because we would be down at that point with having somebody at the academy.
Correct. So like I was saying, this individual who's retiring in 27, he retires, I believe, right around the same time, I believe January 11th, same as me, of 27. And then we would not hire probably until February, until they get out of the academy. It would be closer to mid to late May till they get out of the academy. So there would be several months there where that position isn't filled.
Okay.
So,
all right. I appreciate you explaining that just a little bit more so I could understand how that works for you guys specifically. The next question that I have is with regards to the academy. Do we get any kind of reimbursement from the state?
No.
For the academy?
No, not for the fire department.
Okay, so the fire department's footing the whole bill for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Adam,
yes,
it's Bonnie.
Yep.
Chief, you've been working on this regionalization for several years at this point. I'm hoping that, okay, you said your retirement is going to be January 2027. I hope the person that is going to fill these awfully big shoes is going to be able to take what you have started and go full force with this, because I think this is where the smaller townships are going to be going, as we have all talked about, that is with regionalization. So, hopefully that's the way it's going to be. And I don't want to lose the education, everything that goes on with you, Chief, because like I said, you've worked your tail off for this. So, and that's all I have to say right now.
So Mrs. Katz did make one comment about the local rural smaller departments. It's not just the rural smaller departments, it's every department, every single department, volunteer fire department in Pennsylvania, they are leaving by the droves. So when we used to, when we were reduced by 16 back in the 90s, there were volunteers that would come in and help and kind of ease that burden. But today, there's around 13,000 volunteer firefighters who are certified to go into a burning building and put the fire out. Okay. As opposed to back in the 70s, there were 300,000. So it is a massive decrease in the number of people who are volunteering. And it's not just the volunteer fire service, it's organizations as well, as many of you all know. But they rely on us more than what we rely on that, but we absolutely rely on our volunteers as well. It's commonplace now for 7 or 8 fire companies to be dispatched to a fire, and if we can't, and that's on a first alarm, that's a working box. If we can't provide that to ourselves, we can't expect them to come in and help as well. So to that extent, I should say. So I would really hope that you would look at it, reconsider, and find alternative means.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the dialogue so far. Mr. Biter, Ms. Mealy, thank you for the questions, comments. You have another one?
I do. And this is more of a question for the administration as a whole, specifically the mayor. Obviously, Sam, you've got 30 days. So it's more of a question for whomever your replacement may be. But the fire department, nobody questions what you do. Obviously, you only have 13,000 people in the state that do the job that you do and are qualified to do the job that you do. So you're a rare breed of individual, and we thank you for that. But is there a way from the administration standpoint that we could look at getting some value added from the fire department? We've talked a little bit offline, but I'll say this publicly now about potentially having the fire department assume the role of codes in the future, so we can look at how we can, again, tough pill to swallow down the road, but how can we do that and then have the complement of officers that we need in the fire department, but also get other things done. And I know you've said to me before, the amount of calls that you guys go on throughout the course of the year continues to increase, but the number of fire calls decreases. And that's a testament to the job that you guys are doing, going out and doing prevention, rental inspections that get done and so on. But again, how can we see that value added potentially in the future? Open-ended question. I'm not looking for an answer right now, but it's something that I think we should seriously consider going forward.
Any other questions, comments on the dialogue in the fire staffing? Mr. Pelisi, please.
No, not necessarily. Well, yeah, I would put a question out there, but it's a very broad question that I encourage all of us to think about right now. And I've said it several times as we are encountering, these tough financial situation, and we are trying to better prepare ourselves as we look a couple of years down the road to be successful. When we consider what we're asking for right now in the back of our heads, and again, every department, is it necessarily a need, or is it more of a want? And sometimes it is difficult to really think about what we can do without until we actually do without it for a little bit, and then we realize, hey, you know what? It's not easy. It's going to be a struggle, but we can get by, at least for now, until we can get things fixed. right? And that's kind of my approach, at least with everything, Chief. So obviously we all voted for your firefighters. We all recognize the value that your department brings to the city and to the services and to the safety and everything. So the decisions that we make right now are purely just, we understand what we want. How can we afford it? Right? So it's purely us being 100% objective. And again, to Councilman Yoder's point, your department isn't the only one that we will be looking at.
But we're the first one.
Sorry. That wasn't, I mean, to be honest with you, it was the first thing on my phone that I could reference. That's why we're talking about you first. It's not intentional at all, so. Any other questions? Mr. Mackey, please.
Well, Councilman Biter, thank you for your question. Because that was going to be my question is, could you give us a little more information on how this might affect the regionalization effort? And you did answer that. But to go a little bit farther, I'm assuming there's more to come. Is there a broader plan outside of what we've seen already in terms of regionalization? And to Councilwoman Katz's point, you're going to be gone soon. Is there a groundwork laid for whoever follows you to continue the amazing work that you've been doing in
Yes,
that vein?
Yes, there's a lot more opportunities for regionalization efforts. I think that ultimately we may be bringing back, I don't know if many of you remember the GLISA concept, which included several municipalities meeting together. For some reason, I wasn't involved, but for some reason it fell apart. I don't know why, but you know, I've talked to a lot of chiefs from surrounding departments, Chief Kenny, myself, Chief Keith, when Chief Keith was working. We talked to several fire chiefs, and one of the things that I heard the most was about this GLISA concept and how that was so beneficial, and they wish that that could be brought back in a concept. But as far as my successor, I know Chief Kenny is very well versed on it. And I know a few other candidates are also well versed in the regionalization efforts. So,
well, thank you. I think again to the things that are giving me pause, right, are we all respect you. I've had the opportunity to work with you side by side to help plan some events and sat in the mobile command unit with you at several events. And so to hear you stand up there and say, I think you're making a huge mistake, that has a big impact on me, because you're in a position, an important position, and I think we all have a lot of confidence in your abilities to perform the job of chief. So when you say something like, I think you're making a huge mistake, that has a big impact on me, right? But then what President Yoder said too is also true. Like we hired PFM, they came in, attrition was one of the things on their list. And yes, this bridge, this idea, the bridge has been passed and has been talked about, right? But this bridge is being built to get us to hopefully to home rule, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, that's what Councilman Yoder is talking about. Then things really could get worse on a lot of different levels. So that's also my fear. So I think that's, and to just take a step further, it's unfortunately these kind of conversations that probably should be happening much sooner, and I'll take credit for that. Not calling you and talking to you about this until now. Captain Ottaviano, you mentioned that in the email that you sent today. And I really appreciated that email. It was a surprising email to get in a good way, a good surprise. And that email is also giving me pause because I look at you guys as the same way. You know, we trust you that you're doing the right things, not only for your department but for the city. So these type of things are really easy to talk about on the phone when you're just looking at a spreadsheet, but that when you get here in a situation like this, and not because people are watching you, but because you're actually talking to each other, you know, I wonder, much like the health insurance, if this is something that we maybe hold off on, to let the idea of regionalization maybe come to fruition, and maybe see, you know, with item 15, this push towards home rule, you know, see where that goes. With the understanding that if it doesn't work, then these are conversations that we're going to be having again this time next year. And there probably won't be a Hail Mary that can stop the things that we need to do. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I don't think I would vote to eliminate this 0.3 position tonight. And that's just the things that have been going through my head. So.
Yeah, and look, if I can piggyback on some of your comments, John, like again, to bring this back to how I tried to kick this off, like I don't want anybody to think that any of us think that this is just a black and white easy decision here, right? It is not. I think all of us at one point or another, in the past few years have when we individually talk regionalization, everybody's eyes light up, right? Like we all have been passionately supportive of the concept, right? And that's not the only thing that makes this dialogue hard and this decision hard. And frankly, 6 years into this is the hardest part of this job. It is every year, right? For a number of reasons, but we're operating under, I would say, a pretty flawed process, right? With timing and when it all happens, and that's really driven by the third class charter, right? And so, and honestly, it's also hard having these conversations, but it's good that we're doing it like this, I think. I mean, look, it's hard to do the homework behind the scenes on these big things, right? Each of us only have limited time, right? And frankly, doing the homework on your end takes away from the other big stuff you need to be doing too. So like all of this is difficult and hard. So there's a lot of things I think macro level that make it hard for us, make it hard for you all. Like I completely get that. Yeah, this is tough. I don't like this part of the job at all, and I know you don't either. And we're in the trenches together on that one for sure, right, Mr. Biter?
So a point that I'd like to just bring up to my fellow members, and then also to you, Sam. Should we leave this in the budget and we're presented with the opportunity to approve a new hire later in the year, we do not have to approve that new hire. So leaving it in may not be the worst result at this point, because again, it's the idea of it. However, what I will say, and I mentioned this before when we talked about the regionalization with South Williamsport, should we leave it in, I will say that the reporting and the tracking of that process must be done for us to have those hard numbers come September or whenever the hire would come before us, so we can actually make a very informed decision, an educated decision as to whether or not it is in our best interest to go ahead and hire that individual so we can see that value.
Ms. Mealy?
I would suggest the opposite, actually, that if we cut this position now, it is an issue that we could return to later in the year when we may have a higher level of certainty, at least some slightly higher level of certainty about our funding situation in a couple of years' time. I would never feel comfortable with the fire department coming to us with someone in hand to hire and us saying, no, I'm sorry, you can't hire that guy. Like, you went through the whole interview process, you figured everything out. And, but we're sorry, we actually don't have the money to do that right now. But I would feel comfortable with the idea of the fire department coming and saying, hey, now is when we would move forward on the idea of a new hire. Do we think that we could, amend, our budget for this, and permit this new hire, that we could shuffle some funds, that we could find a way to fund it. I don't think that either one of those is a great option, but I would feel more comfortable, I think, cutting the position and perhaps returning to it later in the year, because that to me is better than them going out for a hiring list and bringing names in and going through the process of vetting someone, and then we shoot it down because we don't have the money.
Which, if I may add, under Mayor Campana, that had happened twice. Like the Friday before the guy was supposed to start on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Well, I mean, I think to Ms. Mealy's point, it forces all of us to revisit the idea, the concept, what's the data telling us earlier in the process. And that's all of us. That's not just the administration, that's council, right? There's a better level of mutual accountability through what you're saying, Ms. Mealy.
Right.
I probably lean your way, but
Yeah.
hats off to both on side.
I don't have any
ideas here.
I don't have any beef with the idea of us looking at this in 6 months' time and saying, oh, we screwed up. Sam's got some good
Yeah,
numbers.
we
for
very
us
well
and we
could.
should."
Yeah,
But,
we very well could.
like, because I think that there is a solid case to be made in both directions.
Yep.
But I think I would rather, no offense, Sam, that the onus was on the fire department to prove to us why they needed the new hire, rather than it getting to some nth degree and us looking like real jerks on a bunch of fronts by saying, no, we actually can't afford it after all.
Yeah.
But-
Okay. Mr. Allison, please.
Just briefly, Chief, could you just explain what effect it would have, like immediately or soon after, if that position isn't filled?
Number one, when that position is vacated by the firefighter who's retiring in January of 27, that position would, like I had explained earlier, that position would go unfilled for several months. During that time, trying to bring, we maintain 7 on duty at a minimum. Now, 7 is less than half of what the National Fire Protection Association recommends for a regular house fire. Yesterday, we had a house fire on Rose Street, which had burnt back on July 4th of 2020. That was very labor intensive back in July of 2020 because it was a very hot day and we had several personnel going down because of the heat stress. So this year we've had two of our firefighters who have had shoulder surgery. We had one go out on extended military leave. And at the beginning of the year, we lost one of our lieutenants who passed away. And that we didn't account for that person. So, we didn't account for losing that person. So on the immediate side of that, of not hiring, it's going to increase overtime because you have 2 guys off. There's going to be 1 platoon with 7 guys. And if there's 2 guys off, then every time they will need to hire overtime. When I say 2 guys off, for vacation, they can only take only 2 individuals can be off at once, for vacation. So, you know, it's definitely gonna increase the overtime, just that one person. And if I may add, there was a study done, I believe it was San Diego. This was several years ago. But this study compared hiring new personnel versus maintaining and paying overtime. At some point, that hiring somebody is less expensive than paying the overtime. So that, please just keep that in mind as well. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, yeah, that gives me more context. I tend to agree with that. I just see it as more of a necessity, because our long-term goal is to have regionalization, and that's going to answer problems, financial problems, I believe, that we're looking for. So, yeah, thank you.
Well,
Chief, the one thing that hasn't been brought up is that since we are helping townships and other areas, they don't have the amount of training that our firemen have. So therefore, from what I understand, I don't know if that's changed, if you could tell me if it's changed or not. But, you know, not having the same training could also be a challenge.
absolutely. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, all volunteers have more or have less training than what our paid staff do. Our paid staff, like we had talked about, goes to the academy and they get several months of training that's pertinent to their position. The volunteers, it can take several years to get to that point, the same point that it takes our guys 7 months or several months to reach. But ultimately, we do this on a day in and day out basis. Every day we are doing it. And that's a lot different than as a volunteer. When I was a volunteer, my department ran 186 calls a year. You know, we run 186 calls probably in about 2 weeks. So there's a huge difference in the volunteer department and a paid department. And, you know, like I said, we utilize those volunteers. So, yes, there is a difference in training. But there are several volunteer firefighters out there who go out and get that training. But our personnel, they get that training right up front, right away. So that is a huge difference.
I said it's a big difference, and someone's life can depend on that also.
Absolutely.
Mr. Pelisi.
Thank you. Chief, if I may ask, I forget which one of my colleagues asked you if there was a plan in place to continue on the efforts of regionalization after you're gone. Are you able to expand or elaborate a little bit more, talk to that a little bit more? Because quite honestly, I'm on the fence right now where I'm at. I recognize where we're at financially, if this is a want or a need. But I also see and recognize the work that you've done to begin the regionalization process. We desperately need to regionalize our public safety services. It needs to absolutely happen. And I know you began that process. I also know that your department did come to some hard truths and to some realizations this year with your department's bargaining agreement that they came to work as a partner with the city, realizing where we are at financially. And I greatly appreciate what you have done. So I kind of want to allow the position to stay in the budget right now, just to see what happens. Let things kind of continue on to see the fruits of the labor. But for me to really feel a lot more confident in that position, I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. Who's going to continue on the efforts of regionalization, and what does that look like a little bit more?
So right now, I can't speak on who would be doing that. I think it would be a concerted effort on behalf of the whole department. Whether the next chief, the next deputy chief, the union itself, they're all part of it. Every single member of the Williamsport Bureau of Fire is part of the regionalization efforts. We have several members who are involved in the east end of this county. We have members who are up in the west end of the county, all over the northern tier. So, like I said, every member is working diligently on opening those lines of communications with the other chiefs, the other departments, and the other firefighters, outside of the Williamsport Bureau of Fire.
Okay, thank you. And just as Councilwoman Mealy is more apt to fall in line with Council President Yoder's perspective, I'm more apt to agree with Councilman Biter's approach, in that we can keep it there, and that later on, if we see we have the need, we could still take that. We could do that if we have to, but that would definitely, we would have to make sure that we are having constant and effective communication.
I think that whoever my successor is, I do believe that that person, along with our administrative aide, Renee Smith, they would be able to put together a monthly report that would be able to show you exactly, how many times South Williamsport is staffed, their squad truck, how many times we've been over there, how long we've been over there, the number of hours that we dedicate over there, those kinds of things. Whether we're over there for incidents or we're over there for pre-planning buildings and hydrant familiarizations, road familiarization. So I definitely think that that's something that is absolutely doable. So we can definitely do that, and we can share that with, we'll send it over to Janice, and then she can distribute it to you guys, or we would be able to send it out individually.
Thanks, Chief.
You bet.
Any other comments or questions?
Or just,
Yes, please.
sorry, I know, just one. I just think it's important for me personally, just to note that, Council President Yoder and I have had several conversations about this on the phone. And I generally was in favor of both of the things that we're talking about right now, or the one that we're going to be talking about next. And I didn't think it was, I never want to leave you out on an island. And I don't want anyone to think that this is Liz's camp or Vince's camp or Adam's camp. And we're all in this together. And Adam, you specifically put a lot of time into this job, and I have a lot of appreciation for that. I don't want you to think that I don't. I think that that I do. But I think another thing that you said is that, yes, this is a part-time job for us. And this, to me, this conversation has brought to light the fact that we need better conversation. We need better lines of communication between ourselves and the administration. But these are the times when I really feel like we need to trust in the people that are doing this full time, and know that they have the city's best interest at hand. And so anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this conversation to light, because it's not an easy conversation to have, and nobody likes to have the finger pointed at them as the person or the group of people that want to pick on the fire department or pick on the police department, because that's not what we're here to do. We're all here to try and accomplish the same thing. So anyway, yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it very much so. Any other comments or questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to make, go ahead, please.
Could you refresh what the motion is?
Yeah, so the motion that we're debating is doing a reduction of a first year firefighter by the value of 0.3. And it reflects attrition,
Right.
not eliminating an existing employed today staff member. That is the motion. So a yes vote would be a vote to reduce. A no vote would be a vote to stay. Yep. It's been a little bit, so that's a very fair point. All right, I'm gonna call for the vote, Mrs. Frank, and I'm just gonna call for the vote, but I also recognize that it may not pass, and that is fine. That's part of this process, right? So, Mrs. Frank, on the motion to amend.
Mr. Allison,
No.
Mr. Mackey,
No.
Mr. Pelisi,
No.
Mrs. Katz,
No.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
No.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion fails 5-2, right?
Two.
Okay. And as much as we debated that one, I'm gonna make a motion for another one. Because while I expect the debate to be a little bit shorter and more streamlined, because there's some carryover of what we just talked about, we also need to explore the other opportunity in the budget. And so I'll make the motion to reduce a one full police officer first year impacting salary FICA, correct? Right? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. And again, so similar route as to that motion, right? It is a recommendation from PFM, and not an easy one by any means. And the idea is to see if it makes sense to help position us just a little bit better for the 2027 budget. And so, same background, same concept. I'll open up the floor for comments, questions, and I'll also, Captain Altavio, thank you for the information as well. Valued, appreciated, very insightful, notably as we have a dialogue tonight about that particular motion as well. So thank you very much for that. It was helpful and welcomed.
Absolutely.
Are there any comments, questions from members on the motion?
Not,
Please.
I mean, if you would, the information you provided in the email to city council,
Yes.
there's a lot of good stuff in there. Could you, for the record, just kind of summarize the thoughts in that email, just so the public has that information as well?
Absolutely. So in the current budget, I gave you the figures. We eliminated over $136,000 from that budget by just making some changes. Less administrators, eliminating a position, and some retirements. But I combed through the budget, and when we factor the budget in, there's a new hire. They have that new hire rate, but that's very inaccurate. So I broke it down, and kind of like Chief Sam explained, we hire and they show a full year, but by the time we hire an officer and they go to the academy, that doesn't start till May. So they start the academy in May. That's 6 months of no pay for that new hire. And then for the next 6 months, which takes them all the way up until the last 6 weeks of the year, they're getting a cadet rate, which is about $14 an hour. So our total there in the budget, it shows a $59,000 cost for that new hire, when in reality, it's just under $20,000. Unlike the police department, or excuse me, unlike the fire, our academy is fully reimbursed. I had a conversation with MOPEC last week.
And they said, yes, the grant was approved. So our $5,500 per officer for the academy is reimbursed. That would go back to the general fund. 45% of that salary is also reimbursed. So for 2026, it's a little over $11,000. So hiring 2 officers, because we already have, we're down 1, we're budgeted for 51. We have 50 right now due to retirement we had in November. We'll have another retirement coming up that we know of, likely early in the year. So we would need to hire 2 officers. Those savings right there is over $100,000. We also have a deployment that we should know next week. Well, excuse me, we should know the first week of January. We're only entitled to pay him his contractual military leave and then his vacation time. So that's almost a $72,000 savings. So those figures right there, that's $172,000 in savings, which is more than 2 officers in salary. Even if you add medical benefits, it's still more. So without reducing our force, we're still saving that money. Yeah.
Thank you as well, Mr. Biter.
So a couple of, number one, a point. Obviously, if this is something that we decide not to do, feedback for us is going to be paramount to make sure that we know what is exactly going on within that department. But what I would ask you, just from a pure ignorance standpoint, should you get somebody, let's just say that somebody who works for a local police department decides that they want to come work for the Williamsport Police Department and they don't have to go to the academy, then that just takes all that and throws it out the window. Is that correct? They don't have to go to the academy, XYZ?
Yeah, they don't need to go to the academy. So most likely we get young people who don't have families. They're just starting off and they want to come here to work. They have to go to the academy. Every once in a while, we'll get an officer that comes from another department, but I have that figure too. So if we were to hire, let's say 1 new hire that needs the academy, and then 1 that comes from, we'll just say South Williamsport, he wants to work here. That savings is almost $81,000, still over the cost of a new officer. Again, keeping our force where it's at without reducing anything. And the decisions like the $72,000, and that's not including the $72,000 for deployment, because that would take it to $152,000. Obviously, we wouldn't make any decisions right now for the fact of we don't know if he's going to be deployed. 95% chance he will be in the first week of January. And that's going to take him the whole 2026. But we would know those figures so we can decide, hey, yes, we're going to save this money or we're not going to save this money.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments, questions for our police administration, other members related to the main motion? Ms. Mealy?
I think your main motion was to reduce the number within the salary detail, correct?
Yeah, to reduce the to reduce it by a year 1 officer by a full officer. That's correct.
Because one of the observations that I would make is that the deployment to me radically changes the idea of whether or not we reduce the department staffing by 1. Would there be a way that we could instead reduce the salary line within the budget by a number of dollars equivalent to the amount of money that would be saved by the deployment? And consequently, if someone is deployed, then we know that we have that money and we can proceed with the 2 hires that we're discussing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, we could. I mean, if that's the consensus of the group, that's fine. I mean, this is a starting point for it.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just asking because to me that is a radical difference
Yeah.
in the way in which you look at police department staffing. If they've got a guy who's oversees all of 2026, then we're effectively reducing the staffing of the department by 2 by cutting a new hire. And I'm not saying that is or is not a good decision, but it seems like perhaps reducing the amount in the salary line item gives them the discretion to decide which thing will work in the beginning of January. That is to say, if there is no deployment, then they move forward with 1 hire and perhaps discuss another hire toward the very end of the year to take advantage of academy training at the year end. And there should be, I would think, enough play in the salary line to do that. And if there is a deployment, then they hire in February, March with the idea of the academy in May. I'm just going to submit that as another potential approach, which seems to me like it gives a little bit more flexibility to the department.
I would also say again, so we have 6 officers that are eligible to retire. We could walk in tomorrow and they could say, I'm done. We have somebody who's talking about an additional, not even discussed now, summer of 2026. So, you know, to reduce our force is bad enough, but to reduce our force and then know that, hey, there's possible retirements, likely retirements, it just puts us in a bad situation.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
And another thing, you'll
please.
see. So because of this retirement and these academies, you'll also see the savings in the 2025 budget. So I looked at the numbers this morning and conservatively, as I put in that email, it's about $150,000 that's going to go back into the general fund that we're not going to use out of our salary line item. So, I mean, there's just a lot of savings that's maybe not seen at first glance.
Yeah, I didn't perhaps acknowledge how much I appreciated all the hard numbers in that email.
I'm a numbers guy, so yeah.
It was helpful and it was nice
Yeah,
to
very
see all
much
of
so.
that broken out.
Captain Ottaviano did a wonderful job on spearheading this with the numbers and stuff, but I don't want to lose focus of the human factor as well. Again, I know you heard me talk about it before, and I'm going to sound like a broken record up here again, but you know, with the officers at the rate that they're working, that's why I encourage you to all go out, try to meet up with the officers, do some ride-alongs, and just see the current tempo. You know, because that costs something too. Because when we're constantly working and working and working, and just the well-being of the officer is a concern that we have. Because then what happens if you look at our sick time is pretty high because we're running our officers ragged because what's expected of them and the service that we're asked to provide and that we're providing, because they'll make it happen. But it's at what cost? You know, the resiliency of the officers and first responders in general, it goes with fire as well. They'll make it work, but at what cost? And then you start looking at the well-being of the officers. And then when that starts to drop, and then you start worrying about the interactions you have in the community, officers being irritable. You know, you're spending that money now on covering the overtime to cover the sick time because the sick time's now elevating stuff. And obviously I can go into a little bit more with it, and we've talked about it before. You know, as I cited in previous budget sessions over the years, with the size department we are, we should be roughly at 68 to 70 officers. I know that's not going to happen. I'm not ignorant to the position that we're in now, but what I do want to just reiterate is that, with that being said, we're doing the work of 68 officers with 50 right now and trying to cover all that stuff. And how that's covered is through overtime costs. So I know cutting over here might look good on paper, as you say, black and white, but that money's going to be spent over here then to cover that position that we took away now. So just want to talk a little bit about the human factor in that, and just something to think about. And that, you know, it goes for the fire department as well. And so
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I've said it before. I mean, I appreciate the reiteration of that perspective. I mean, it's the truth. Again, you know, back to what we were talking about with Sam, and the fire department. Like that's what makes this decision hard, right? It absolutely does. So, you know, there's everything you say is legitimate and is a very strong factor for, I think, all of us. So, absolutely, absolutely. Any comments, questions? Okay. Let's take the vote and see where it goes.
Okay, Mr. Allison,
No.
Mr. Mackey,
No.
Mr. Pelisi,
No.
Mrs. Katz, Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
No.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion fails 4-2. So look, I appreciate the dialogue so far on these. These are really the big areas we had thought about and I think wanted to have some dialogue about tonight. Miss Mealy, I don't know if you want to try your concept either. That's up to you, but
I can make a motion, Adam, it would be my recommendation that you not second it. So that, no, because
see if
with
it-
4
yeah.
nay votes, if nobody else seconds it, then we don't need to worry about
Oh,
debating it.
yeah, fair. I get you.
And I would recommend that, I would make a motion that we reduce the salary line item in the police budget. Jamie, you don't happen to have that? No. No better than I do. I apologize. I should have thought of this, but I was expecting that debate to go on a little longer. Sorry about that. And I have no fingerprints left right now, sorry. The salary line item, 201051010, in the Bureau of Police by $71,000, $71,700. To account for the possibility of a deployment and consequently constrain a hire unless there is a deployment within the department.
Is there a second?
Second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further debate or questions on that motion?
So the question that I have is, we reduced that salary line item by the $71,000, some change. That's pending the deployment. Should this deployment not happen, that gets pulled right back in.
No, the idea is that there will be an extra $71,000, $71,700 in the salary line if someone gets deployed, because that is savings that we will realize via a deployment.
I see.
So that will make them whole again to make a hire. They will continue to have the funding in their budget for the hires that they are proposing for the 2026 year in the event of a deployment.
And then what do we do in 27 when this individual comes back from deployment?
Then we need to either know that we are in a better position to maintain that hire, or we need to move on an attrition concept in 27.
Okay.
It's not a perfect idea, Eric. I
No,
freely admit this.
It's not, but I wanted to make sure that I understood completely how that money was being maneuvered.
It sounds to me as though with the number of potential retirements we have in the department in the
Correct.
next year or so,
Correct.
more than likely a retirement by, or a reduction by attrition would be a possibility in 27 in the same way that it is in 26. I know that that's not a perfect.
Yeah.
It's not a crystal ball.
But it is a fairly
Right.
good solution.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions on the motion to amend? All right, hearing and seeing none, then Mrs. Franklin, the third motion to amend here.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
No.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz, Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 5-1.
Fine.
Yeah, okay. Back to the main motion on the budget. So those were the kind of three overarching, or the three overarching things I think that there was some interest in having some dialogue on. Let me just circle back to what I said at the outlet. Fire department, police department, and administration, we appreciate the dialogue. It was insightful for me, I think for all of us, not only for this budget, but notably going into 2027. In January, when we get PFM's final recommendations and we start diving into those throughout the year, all of that was very helpful. So thank you, everybody, for that. And I know that is a difficult dialogue to have, but it was fruitful, I think, and I'm grateful for it. So, are there any other comments, questions, changes that other people want to see on the budget before we pass it? Yes, Mr. Pelisi.
I just would like to make the quick comment that you know, as these decisions are tough decisions, I appreciate everybody coming forward together to understand that it's not us versus you. It's not you versus them. It's all of us together versus this problem. And this problem is how do we pay for everything? Right. So as we look internal and we look to make some concessions, hard concessions, and make decisions that are all impactful, right? I speak for myself, but I'm sure I speak for the rest of council that I greatly appreciate it very much with everything that we're all working together on to try and put our city in a better position in the next couple of years. So, thank you.
Any other comments, questions on the main motion of the budget? All right. Let's take the main vote then. Mrs. Frank, item 5, second reading.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you all. Let's jump to item 6, Mrs. Frank.
Ordinance of the City of Williamsport, County of Lycoming, and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania fixing the tax rate for all city purposes for the year 2026 in final reading.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
So this is the second reading of the tax ordinance. It's a $0.5 tax increase. That is what we just passed in the budget. And so, I mean, I'll open the floor for any comments, questions, dialogue, but I think this one's probably pretty straightforward, given we just passed the budget with a $0.5 tax increase. I'll reiterate kind of what I think I said last time, and notably for the public. Look, none of us want to raise taxes. Administration, council members, for sure. Unfortunately, we have to, given the, current constraints financially that we're in. And I'm going to remind everybody outside of Randy, there's a high probability we're going to have a tax increase budget proposed to us next year. And hopefully it's not as high as what we thought this year's and potentially next year's would be going into this, but we should not be surprised if we see one. Let's hope that through good management throughout the year, through proactive application of the recommendations we get from PFM, that we can minimize it. And then I'll also say, nobody should be surprised about having some very similar dialogue with all of this next year when we are going through the budget again. It's likely going to happen. It's going to happen. We should all be prepared for that sooner than later. All right. Mrs. Frank, on the vote, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Again, thank you all for the dialogue. Jamie, thank you
Thank
for
you.
your hard work on the budget administration. We appreciate it. All right, jump down to item 8, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Williamsport appointing a city treasurer.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All right, so we did interviews for our vacant treasurer position on Monday. And just to kind of refresh on some of the dialogue in that, our treasurer's role became vacant in October. It is an elected position, and because of a vacancy, we have to go through an appointment process. That process yielded 6 candidates. 3 were non-responsive to outreach. 1 had to withdraw because of the residency requirements that they are not able to fulfill it being an elected position. We interviewed 2 candidates, April Wine and Adam Welteroth. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I was very, very pleased and surprised at having, I shouldn't say surprised, but like very pleased at having 2 very good interviewed candidates. And I'll, with reflection, even say, I think both were better than the last time we did this 4 years ago. We had an improvement in candidate quality, which was really great to see. In my sense of this is I think there is a consensus leaning one way. So we have a resolution in front of us that has some blanks on the name and the date of start. So I'm just going to make a motion to amend reflect what I think is the consensus of the group here. John, I'll let you do your thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
apologize.
No, that's okay. While I was present for the interviews of both candidates, I will be abstaining from the vote tonight, and I also, post-interview process, have not discussed any of my thoughts with, I don't think, anybody up here. So I have abstained from the deliberation of candidates, and I will not be voting on this tonight.
Sorry, I forgot about that, John. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to amend the resolution to reflect the name for the blanks of Adam Welteroth and a start date of December 15th, 2025. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Again, both candidates were extraordinary in the interview, but to me, with some reflection, Adam really stood out in a couple of areas that I think are put him in a bit better of a position to come in there and be successful, and try to work through a number of things we need that office to work through. And my sense is that that was kind of the consensus and what some similar reflections of the group were as well. So, but I'll open that up for debate and any kind of comments or questions before we vote on the amendment to reflect that resolution. All right, this is Frank. Then on the motion to amend, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Abstain.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz, Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion to amend passes 6-0. Back to the main motion. Any other final comments, questions on the appointment before we take the final vote? All right. Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Franklin, the main motion for item 8, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Abstain.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Okay. Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 9, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution real estate refund.
Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. I'm actually going to ask Nick to kind of cover this for me, if you would, please. You're a lot more familiar with the refund process and stuff than I am, so if you don't mind.
Certainly. So this is a real estate refund. There was an incorrect assessment due to an error in the assessment office from the county. There is a specific law that says when the assessment office makes an error, they're due 6 years of refunds for that error, as long as the error was obviously 6 years long. In talking with the assessment office, the error here occurred more than 6 years ago. So this is a request for 6 years of refund simply due to the incorrect assessment. So this is just refunding the taxes that were overpaid due to the incorrect assessment. The assessment's been corrected. And I think that's all I have for that.
Are there any comments, questions by members? All right, hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, item 9.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 11, we're going to skip over. I think there's still a few things that the fire department is working on. Is that correct, Chief?
Yeah.
And so they have requested that we just not worry about that, and we'll revisit that in January, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then item 12, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing a professional services agreement between the city and Hailstone Economic for Home Funding Administration.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for your patience, by
No,
the
no
way.
problem. So as Ms. Frank said, tonight we're seeking a resolution to move forward with a professional service agreement with Hailstone. The duration of the agreement would be for the year of 2026, expiring on 12/31, and the amount would be not to exceed $30,000. Basically, they would be assisting our department with spending down home funds, coming up with a prioritization matrix so that we're able to move these funds a little more quickly, and to set forth some new policies and procedures that have not been updated in quite some time. So we want to make sure that we are keeping on top of our home program and policies, as well as our housing rehabilitation standards.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions on the resolution? Ms. Mealy?
When we discuss, I'm seeing that I missed a document that might have answered my questions, but I'm going to ask you now that you're standing there. When we discuss spending down home funds, are we talking about the amount of home funds that the city has returned as pay? That is to say, we have some, we had a pot of funding that I think was originally in the neighborhood of about $1 million in mortgage lending that had been paid back to the city, and that we were looking to once again spend down as part of a first-time home buyers program. Is that the funding that Hailstone will be assisting with, or is
Yeah,
it?
so they would be, that would be our program income.
Okay.
They would be assisting in helping us to spend that funding down, and including that in that prioritization. But we also have prior years funds that we'd like to get moving on. And then as part of their agreement with us, they would be working with us to help set forth policies to, so that we're not getting behind on the expenditure of these funds, and that we're able to, spend them down as we receive them. Because the federal government doesn't want us to receive funds and to not spend them in that calendar year. So the goal here would be that we're able to move funds much more easily than we have in the past.
Got it. What's the total amount of funding that we're talking about them assisting us in creating policies to expend more expeditiously?
Yeah, so the program income is about $1 million, like you had said, and then I believe, Valerie, we have 6 years of funding that we had previously not spent, that we would be able to move forward with. The amounts differ year to year, but the ballpark amount for each year would be about $200,000.
So we're looking at a total of a little better than $2 million.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right, more or less. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So for the relatively low price of $30,000, they will help us to get that funding allocated, and then help us to better allocate funding in future.
Yes.
That seems more than reasonable to me. Will part of that arrangement be a discussion about about the kind of highest and best use for those $1 million in program income that we have?
Yeah, we would absolutely welcome, any of the members of council who, would like to meet with our department to, we're there Monday through Friday.
I think I would certainly
we're
be
always
interested in understanding a little bit more what their proposals are. But I would also suggest that we should reach out, or perhaps request that they reach out, depending to realtors in the area, because I know that there were a lot of realtors who seem to have strong feelings about ways in which we could best utilize that funding to encourage home ownership within the city. Right.
So if I could, so this will help us, expend the home funds that we have currently. Our staff is looking to do a housing needs study moving forward, and that would be separate from this, but something that I think that would be probably more apt to engage realtors and developers and things of that nature in that regard, less so on the home funding expenditure.
Got it. I guess I was just thinking that this could be, since we have used a lot of this as like a secondary lien on properties, that might be, the structuring of it might be something we could get a bit of a sense from the greater Williamsport community on what would be most useful to people trying to become first-time home buyers. But excellent either way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Austin.
Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank on item 12.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yeah.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Bider.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, council.
We'll jump to item 15, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution between the administration and city council to work together to place a government study commission question on the city ballot in May of 2026.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Mealy, the floor is yours.
Okay. And to be honest, unless you object, I might prefer to read the text of the resolution.
Yeah,
with
please.
the minutes. But I guess I can open up first by saying that the one concept that has come up over and over again tonight during the significantly longer than 1 hour of discussion that I said Randy was going to have to sit around for before he could go ahead and be a member of the civilian public for once, is that we somewhat desperately need, it was the recommendation of the firm that has advised the city on gaining a better financial footing as part of the strategic management planning program through the Department of Community and Economic Development at the state. It was their recommendation that we try to become a home rule municipality. And when I say try, what I mean by that is that it is not a choice open to elected officials within the city of Williamsport. It is a choice that has to be made by the voters of the city of Williamsport. And so the thing that I thought should really be kind of the end note of our budgetary year here in the city was a commitment by the administration, primarily in the form of the mayor and a city council, to work together to put a question on the ballot this coming May to put to the citizens of Williamsport whether they are willing to study our form of governance. With the idea that we would then elect a government study commission. The majority of the government study commission's functions would, we would certainly hope, be funded by the state as part of their recommendation that we move toward home rule. And that that the government study commission drafts a home rule charter, and the citizens of Williamsport then, within 18 months of May of 2026, have the choice of whether or not to adopt that home rule charter. I cannot underline enough the extent to which this is the primary financial recommendation that we have gotten to improve Williamsport's financial standing, and the extent to which it seems to have served relatively well. Frankly, Adam could speak better to this than I could. Other municipalities that have moved in this direction within the state of Pennsylvania. Home rule has been a positive step for the vast majority of municipalities that have implemented it across the state. And frankly, in some ways, it simply allows us to move ourselves into a position enjoyed by lots of other municipalities across the country without these sort of hoops to jump through. With that in mind, here's the text of the resolution, and then I'll jump off the soapbox. Whereas under the aegis of the Strategic Management Planning Program, the Department of Community and Economic Development of the state of Pennsylvania has made recommendation to the city of Williamsport that it pursue the creation of a home rule charter for the city. And whereas the transition to home rule is recommended in order to increase the city's financial stability, decrease its dependency on property taxes, diversify its opportunities for taxation, and provide the city with better local control over governance. And whereas based upon this recommendation and out of an interest in bettering the city's financial prospects, the mayor, his administration, and the city council wish to act to place a question upon the May 19th, 2026 ballot to allow the voters to decide if the city should further study the concept of home rule and draft a home rule charter. And whereas the parties to this resolution understand that the determination to explore becoming a home rule municipality, the drafting of a home rule charter, and the adoption of that home rule charter are all decisions that will rightly rest with the voters of the city of Williamsport when they cast their ballots. And whereas the city's intention is to place the following question on the Williamsport ballot for the election on May 19th, 2026, in order to provide the voters of the city with the opportunity to better explore and understand local governance via the Government Study Commission process. Shall a government study commission of 7 members be elected to study the existing form of government of the municipality, to consider the advisability of the adoption of a home rule charter, and, if advisable, to draft and to recommend a home rule charter? And whereas it is the intention of the administration and city council to jointly select a slate of 7 candidates for the Government Study Commission, including the mayor and a member of city council, with the understanding that other candidates may also choose to nominate themselves, and that the final decision on the members of the Government Study Commission will rest with the voters of the city. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor, his administration, and the members of the city council of Williamsport do hereby pledge their mutual commitment to initiating the home rule process within the city, their mutual desire to seek out upstanding and thoughtful candidates for the Government Study Commission charged with drafting a home rule charter, and their mutual efforts to communicate with the voters of the city about the potential benefits of becoming a home rule municipality. We don't usually read those into the record, but because I think it is very important that we go on record stating the multiple benefits of home rule for the city of Williamsport, I wanted that to be out there. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Mealy, for spearheading that. Couldn't agree more. As we've talked about, we need to do this. And as a member of council, as one of 7, I look forward to voting yes for this, but also looking forward to doing what is needed of me to make sure this goes to fruition, and supporting this however I can for it to be successful. So you're here. Any other comments, questions on the Mr. Mackey?
Yeah, thanks, Liz, for putting this together, and kind of you and Adam driving this effort to get it to where it is right now. But I think that last line is the most important one to repeat again, and that's mutual efforts to communicate with the voters of the city about the potential benefits, because it's going to take all of us, right down to the last public works employee who's hopefully going to be out there, keeping First Friday safe again next year, which I know they will be. But I think this is probably going to be, or could be, the most important thing that any of us do or will have done on our time here on city council. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
You're here. Well said.
So let's get it done.
Any other comments or questions? You can see none. Mrs. Frank on item 15.
Randy, this is the last vote for you.
To this, he does a victory lap.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you ready? Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
I'm
Ms.
here,
Mil-
Janice.
Oh, Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Good stuff. Item 17, except for filing, I don't think we're accepting anything, are we? So we'll scratch that one. Item 18, announcements. This is our last meeting for the year. Our next meeting will be on Monday, January 5th, 7 p.m. Our next meeting will be Monday, January 5th. It will actually be in Trading Transit 1, first floor, where CTL is. It's our reorganization meeting for council leadership. And then our next voting meeting, first of the year, will be Thursday, January 8th, 7 p.m. here in Trading Transit 2. Are there any comments from members of the public that have stuck with us for a solid 2.5 hours? God bless you. Any comments from members of council? Mr. Biter?
I just wanted to say thank you, Council President Yoder, for all the hard work you put in, not only to the budget, but throughout the year. As was said earlier, you put in a tremendous amount of effort throughout the course of the year to herd all of the cats that are on council, not also including Bonnie Cats. But we greatly appreciate your efforts, and I applaud you for all of that. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy. I appreciate it. I learned from good people like you. Very much so. Any other comments? It's our last meeting of the year. I'll just wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year, and be safe. Mr. Pelisi.
Final word from me for the year is good luck, Randy.
Yeah,
We're gonna make
you're
it.
here.
Where he's going, Randy doesn't need luck.
Are there any comments from the administration? All right. I'll take a motion in a second for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.